Pans down, said Douglas. After school, he performed his daily regimen. Half an hour of free weights followed by a 3-mile run in Central Park. He got back to St. Agnes with just enough time for a shower before the forensics match. Outside the locker room, though, lounging on her back on a windowsill 8 feet off the ground was Nicole Bonner. How did you get up there? Panted Douglas. He was winded from his run. Flew. Nicole sat up, studied her teacher. Douglas had a privileged view of her ankles, which were crossed and not at all blue. She wore low black pumps. What did you read last night? He asked. The Moviegoer by Walker Percy. Did you know, Mr. Kerchak, that thousands of runners die every year from heart attacks in mid-workout? I don't think I run fast enough to induce cardiac trauma, Nicole. The girl on the ledge didn't swish her legs. Trauma's an excellent word to say out loud repeatedly. Trauma. Trauma. I should shower, said Douglas. Nicole pointed at him. Give me one good reason why I should go to college at all. Tons of reading time, said Douglas. Nicole jumped off the ledge, landed lightly on her feet a yard from Douglas. I'll accept that, she said. Without any goodbye, she turned and walked away. It was 3 weeks later, in mid-April, that Douglas received the invitation. It happened on a rainy Tuesday at the start of the school morning. Just before chapel, Nicole poked her head in the faculty lounge where Douglas and Katya Zaroff sat beside each other on the couch. Douglas was reading the paper, and Katya had just noticed a ladder in her stockings. Mr. Kerchak, said Nicole. Douglas and Katya looked up. No students in here, said Katya. Mr. Kerchak, I need to speak to you privately. Nicole stood with her hands behind her back. She wore her school uniform and a silver bracelet with jade dolphins on it. Douglas stood. Katya Zaroff made a little snort. Out in the hall, Nicole flashed Douglas a smile. Princeton's taking me, she said. Douglas had a fleeting image of hugging his student. He patted her once on the shoulder. That's wonderful, he said. Congratulations. Nicole nodded sharply. She had a Bible under one arm, which surprised Douglas. As a thank you for your letter of recommendation, my parents and I would like you to join us for dinner this Thursday in our home. Well, said Douglas, that's very kind, but there's no need. We'll be serving gnocchi that Father will have prepared by hand. I've assured Father that you enjoy gnocchi. Nicole, began Douglas. The bell rang for chapel. You told me that you enjoy gnocchi, Mr. Kerchak. Oh, I do, said Douglas quickly. But listen, Nicole, I'm very proud that you've gotten into Princeton, but you don't have to. I'm reading the book of Revelation. Nicole tapped the Bible, in case you were wondering. Girls surged past Douglas and Nicole, chattering, chapel-bound. Come on, Nicky, said Rhonda Phelps. Good morning, Mr. Kerchak, said Audrey Little, the horny health teacher. Nicole cocked her head to one side. Did you know, Mr. Kerchak, that there are creatures in the book of Revelation covered entirely with eyeballs? Douglas shook his head. He felt slightly dizzy, in need of ibuprofen. My parents and I will expect you at 7 on Thursday. Nicole stepped backwards. We live in the preemption apartment building, West 82nd and Riverside. Preemption? Called Douglas, but Nicole Bonner had turned away. On Thursday afternoon, Douglas got his hair cut at the corner barbershop. Chiapas, who wasn't 5 feet tall yet, stood on a milk crate, moving an electric razor over Douglas's sideburns, grinning at Douglas in the mirror. You a week early, Uno? Hot date tonight? Douglas smirked. Yeah, right. Chiapas whistled a tune Douglas didn't know. Because Chiapas was only an apprentice, Douglas got his haircuts for free. Bet you got a date, Uno. Bet you and Grace Kelly going out for Langostino. Uh-huh. Chiapas knew Douglas's movie addictions. Ow! Douglas flinched, and Chiapas pulled the razor away. Douglas turned his head 2 inches below his part. The razor had bitten his hair down to the scalp. Oops. Chiapas shrugged. Sorry, Uno. Chiapas fingered the gash. Chiapas. Today of all days. The boy's eyes lit up. You do got a date. Douglas blushed. I do not. Chiapas inspected Douglas's head. The cutaway hair was in the shape of a question mark, without the period. Don't worry, Uno, it's cool. She'll love it. There is no she, insisted Douglas. At 7 p.m., Douglas arrived at the Preemption apartment building. He wore a camel's hair sports coat, and he carried a German chocolate cake from Café Mozart. He'd thought first to bring wine, then decided it was inappropriate since Nicole was his student. In the lobby, Douglas was met by a tall, black doorman with an oval scar on his forehead. "Douglas Kerchak," said the doorman, "this way." Douglas followed the doorman to an ancient Otis elevator, the hand-operated kind. Top floor, penthouse. The doorman ushered Douglas into the elevator, pulled a lever, and stepped out. Bon chance. The elevator doors closed, and Douglas was alone, moving. He glanced around himself. The elevator was antiquated, with mahogany walls that smelled like something Douglas couldn't quite place. A medieval monk's library, maybe, or the inside of a coffin. When he disembarked the elevator, the door to the Bonner penthouse was already open. Nicole stood leaning against the jamb. "Good evening, Mr. Kerchak." Douglas made an effort not to widen his eyes. Nicole was wearing the most exquisite black silk evening gown he'd ever seen. It lay along the lines and curves of her body in a fashion so perfectly tailored that the material might have been woven around her as she stood there in the doorway. The gown was exactly as black as her hair, and for a fantastic second, Douglas imagined that crushed black diamonds and the ink of several squids had gone into making silk. "Hello, Nicole," said Douglas. "You look really nice." "You have a question mark on your head," said Nicole.